we meet our people where they're at with empathy, because that is what helps our people feel seen, heard, and understood. That's what registers as safety, which starts to ground their reactions, right? Because they have an empathetic witness. And when they feel heard and understood empathetically, that's when they actually become open and receptive to the help that we're there to offer them and the support for them. 9 times out of 10, once you actually see that strategy through, you help that person up, you dust them off, you tell them to get back in there because they got it, like they're coming to you and saying thank you after that exchange, because they know that you see their potential, or else you wouldn't even bother holding them accountable to it. And who the heck doesn't want that kind of leader? Welcome to the Leadership Launchpad podcast, the Legacy Edition, where conscious leaders unite to unlock their highest potential so collectively we can change the way the game is being played. Welcome back to the Leadership Launchpad podcast, changing the way this game is being played. And we are back in this locker room talking about conscious leadership this summer. And I am joined by my co-host, Tracy Allen, who is coming in hot off the press because she has something pressing that she thought we could bring to our audience that would be super valuable to our audience, given this whole hot topic of conscious leadership we're tackling this summer. So I'm going to pass you the puck, Trace. What exactly is it that you've got brewing over there?
Yeah, I thought it would be, well, selfishly, I need some help in an area that I know you can help me with. But I thought it would be kind of fun for us to kind of do a live kind of coaching session so that our people can see how this is done, the work that you do, and how you support, and how that mindset really does play a huge part in the way that we're conscious, and the way that we feel, and the way that we're making decisions. But and I thought it would be great for us to kind of explore one of the things I've been kind of like struggling with, and I think human-centric leaders, probably a lot of them do struggle with this. But when we talk about human-centric leadership, we care so much about our people, right? People are first, and we actually try to inspire them, engage them, make sure they feel seen and valued, versus the power over kind of leadership. So, that's what I'm trying to, authentically be. That's what I believe is, inspiring for me as a leader when I have being led in such a way. So for sure is something that I want to bring to my people. But of course, leadership is much more than just being kind to your people and hearing them and seeing them, but you're also responsible for delivering either a product, a project, whatever that is. But and you're also responsible for developing your people and holding them accountable and providing them good constructive feedback. So one of the things that has been for me a little bit weighing on me is trying to stay authentic to the human-centric leadership mission I'm on, but also balancing that, because sometimes it's really tough when you're giving feedback to people and holding a mirror for them. Sometimes they're not happy. It shows in the way that they, their body language or what they might respond with. And I find that as an empathetic leader, I feel really bad, right? And I feel like then I'm like, am I really being a human-centric leader if I'm making my people feel bad? So then it becomes a concern, a worry for me, and then I become second-guessing myself. Should I have done that? Should I have said that? But at the end of the day, as leaders, we're ultimately responsible for the execution. So, and I'm a big believer that feedback is the only way that we become aware, and the only way that we can actually take action to actually address it. So without the feedback, sure, it keeps everybody feels happy, but they're not actually aware of where they are. So I think that's what kind of I've been feeling lately and struggling with that. And I'm trying to balance around how do I keep providing good feedback so that my people can develop and be the best versions of themselves while making sure that they still know I care about them.
Mm. Well, Coach's Corner today, eh, Trace? I love
Mm.
it. So the first place I think we would obviously start if we were in session would be to get up in the box with it, right? Which is how we get conscious as the observer in terms of everything that you've just described is going on in your leadership play. And the reason I want to pull you back up into that perspective is so that we can get into alignment with the goal. And I think you sort of mentioned it, but I want to make sure that you are really clear and consciously aligned with that as we start to work through some of the resistance that's showing up on the play. And so the first thing that I want you to get into alignment with is, what is the goal here as a 2.0 human-centric leader? What is your goal? What is your charge in this type of leadership scenario?
Yeah, I think the goal is obviously is to, you know, make sure my people feel heard and seen and valued,
Mm-hmm.
right? And inspired. I mean, that's ultimately what I want to do. And I believe that, I try to do that in everything
Mm-hmm.
that I do. But of course, not everything is easy. Those ones are easy, and some actions are easier to align with that. But without feedback, people being open to that, it could look like um, that I'm being maybe too difficult and not caring. But
Mm-hmm.
I do for them, I do care because by giving them feedback, then they can actually start making changes and
Mm-hmm.
improving. And I can help them do that if they're willing to listen. But it's not always seen like that. So for me, it's about obviously delivering whatever I need to for the business.
Mm-hmm.
But on top of that is doing it in a respectful, inspiring way for my people.
So that your people can,
Deliver.
right? So that they can execute on their goals, on their role expectations, so that you can set your people up to win.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the most important thing for us to stay in alignment with as we come back down on the ice and we start to see, right, naturally where some of these red flag emotions are showing up on the play. So that's the next thing I'm calibrating that you're mentioning is just how bad you feel in your empathetic approach when you are picking up on what your people are throwing down, which is
Mm-hmm.
their displeasure with the feedback, right? And you're right. That is part of how we set our people up to grow is that we have to help them find their edges. I don't know how we grow without a little bit of displeasure. In fact, that's the very essence of human nature is we need pressure, we need challenge, we need a little bit of pain to wake up our nervous system, right? To get our attention to the opportunities for growth. So you
Mm-hmm.
tell me why you feel so poorly when your people are in displeasure with the feedback. Describe
I
that for
think it's
me.
I think it's just, empathetic. I think I've gotten feedback sometimes that I didn't really like.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was probably true, but it hurt me, or I felt sad about it, and I was disappointed in myself. And I
Mm.
think I think maybe that's why they feel like that. But then, I know that I felt like that, so I feel bad. I feel bad
Okay.
that they feel like that, right?
Play
That's not
that.
what the goal. That's not the goal. Is to make them feel bad.
No, but that is a moment on the play,
Yeah.
right? I want you to play the game tape forward and tell us how you felt once you got beyond the displeasure, the disappointment, and you not necessarily being at the bar perfectly according to
Mm-hmm.
what is expected of you. If you play
Mm-hmm.
that game tape forward, what happened next? Did you roll over? Did you throw in the towel after you were disappointed? What was your response after the disappointment?
Well, I would say, I would have reflected for sure. I've never given up. So then after my emotions are regulated and I can get back down, I usually look at it
Mm-hmm.
impartially and without any bias and try to understand what that could mean and how I can maybe improve that.
Mm-hmm. And so I think now it's about coming back into your experience as that leader who's delivering that feedback that, of course, it is the most human natural reaction, not response, because that's a
Mhm.
totally automatic thing. When we're told that we're doing less than we're expected to, I think it's very natural for us to be disappointed, for us to feel let
Mhm.
down to some degree. But that's not the whole story, is it? And so if we get reactive based on the reactions of our people, it's going to render us helpless, powerless, right? To be able to actually support them through the challenge, to be able to see and realize the growth that lives on the other side of that pain.
Mhm.
And I think that's where you and I have spoken about this so much. And I know we're doing this for our people, but I want to bring this to our people too. That's why we talk so much about grounded empathy, right? An empathetic leader can't be completely disgrounded in their empathy, meaning you can't empathize to the point of completely losing yourself in that other party's reaction because now both parties are destabilized. And where do you go from there? But when we're grounded in our empathy, it means, of course, we can be, we can be available to our people's displeasure and disappointment, but we're also stable in our ability to then reach out a hand, right? And help them out of that displeasure and disappointment by actually doing the things that you just mentioned, you naturally were able to progress through to be able to find the growth op and realize the growth op on the other side of that pain. And to be grounded in our empathy means that we remember why we're giving this person the feedback. We remember that challenging directly is a form of care, holding up a mirror so that we can show our people their blind spots, the things that they're not privy or conscious to, that need to be improved. I mean, that's not going to go away in the expectations of their role, surely. But if we're grounded in our empathy, it means that we can be available to their displeasure and not get lost in it. It means that we can then be there as a resource to help them see that the awareness is the entry point into finding the intelligent choice and the empowered action, right? But if we become powerless because we get destabilized by what the other party is feeling, that's not 2.0 leadership either, right? 2.0 leadership, we always say, is about awakening the power within. So if we stay calm and grounded, consciously at the helm, then that's where we're ultimately going to still have the perspective, the resources to be able to offer that person so that they actually then can get the coaching, right? Can actually receive the coaching as it's intended, which is for the purposes of their growth. You and I talk about this all the time. Like, feedback is gold. We should want the feedback if we're serious about our growth and evolution as human beings. And so, if that person isn't going to seize that hand as an opportunity for their growth, that's probably feedback that you also need to be privy to as their leader. And that's also something that you probably should be putting on their radar as well, right? Because if they are not being receptive to feedback as it's intended, which is for the purposes of their growth, they're probably not in the right role in the first place, right? If it requires
Mhm.
some modicum of evolution and
Mhm.
improvement,
Mhm.
you know? But I think it's a great question because, yeah, obviously I work with a ton of empathetic human beings that are at that helm. And I think it can get very confusing as to what being an empathetic leader actually means. In this context, where we're talking about conscious leadership this summer, that's what it means. It means that we meet our people where they're at with empathy because that is what helps our people feel seen, heard, and understood.
Mhm.
That's what registers as safety, which starts to ground their reactions, right? Because they have an empathetic witness. And when they feel heard and understood empathetically, that's when they actually become open and receptive to the help that we're there to offer them and the support that we're there to offer them. 9 times out of 10, once you actually see that strategy through, you help that person up, you dust them off, you tell them to get back in there because they got it, like they're coming to you and saying thank you after that exchange because they know that you see their potential or else you wouldn't even bother holding them accountable to it. And who the heck doesn't want that kind of leader? If a leader isn't coming to you with feedback, you go to your leader and ask for that feedback, because that is the absolute requisite aspect of being a high performer. You can't grow without it. You should want it. And if your leader is taking the time and the energy to invest in your feedback, that is an expression of care, don't you think?
I do.
But I think it can be really easy, and this is why we wanted to demonstrate this today, is because we do care so much, and when our people are feeling that pain or discomfort, it can be really easy to get lost in that with them, you know? I just wanna humanize that as much as I can on this mic today. We're not saying that you don't actually feel that pain. You're available to what they're feeling. That's actually what makes that empathy. It's just that you're also grounded in what you're feeling. And you're also grounded in that higher level perspective as to why you're there giving them that feedback in the first place. And if that's all about expression of care, then it helps you to hold that grounded place so that you actually can show up in service to that person's growth. And what a gift that can be, you know, that type of exchange. And I know you know that, but yeah, this is why emotional intelligence is the #1 leadership skill of them all here in 2025, because it absolutely is a skill set that requires a lot of consciousness. It's not just about feeling our feelings, right? It's understanding how to work with our feelings intelligently as they come up, because we're human beings and they should be coming up. Right? We said on one of our other shows, there's nothing more powerful in terms of a performance driver than your emotions, but you got to know strategically how to work with them so that they don't actually destabilize you. And I think this is an example of how even something that is positively intended, like empathy, can destabilize a leader. So I love to say that, you know, challenging directly, it kind of has a bad rap, you know, our associations with directly challenging people is kind of busted up. But we have to see that through the lens of, this is how we express that we care. I think I said it on a podcast 2 or 3 weeks ago where I said, my dad obviously was holding me accountable to perfectionism because he saw the greatness in me. He believed I could be that excellent. And that's how he was communicating it to me. And that's a felt sense. It's the same thing we talk about with our kids when we got to hold them accountable and have boundaries, right? It's like, as long as it's through the lens of love and care and them knowing that they are held in a safe space, then that's how it lands. It lands like, wow, mom actually gives a damn. And I think for leaders, it's the same thing. If a leader isn't coming to you with feedback, you go to your leader and ask for that feedback, because that is the absolute requisite aspect of being a high performer. You can't grow without it. You should want it. And if your leader is taking the time and the energy to invest in your feedback, that is an expression of care, don't you think?
I do.
But I think it can be really easy, and this is why we wanted to demonstrate this today, is because we do care so much, and when our people are feeling that pain or discomfort, it can be really easy to get lost in that with them, you know? And I think I just wanna humanize that as much as I can on this mic today. We're not saying that you don't actually feel that pain. You're available to what they're feeling. That's actually what makes that empathy. It's just that you're also grounded in what you're feeling. And you're also grounded in that higher level perspective as to why you're there giving them that feedback in the first place. And if that's all about expression of care, then it helps you to hold that grounded place so that you actually can show up in service to that person's growth. And what a gift that can be, you know, that type of exchange. And I know you know that, but yeah, this is why emotional intelligence is the #1 leadership skill of them all here in 2025, because it absolutely is a skill set that requires a lot of consciousness. It's not just about feeling our feelings, right? It's understanding how to work with our feelings intelligently as they come up, because we're human beings and they should be coming up.
Mhm.
Right? We said on one of our other shows, there's nothing more powerful in terms of a performance driver than your emotions, but you got to know strategically how to work with them so that they don't actually destabilize you. And I
Mhm.
think this is an example of how even something that is positively intended, like empathy, can destabilize a leader.
Yeah.
Was that useful?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Any other
Yeah.
questions in and around that, or you feel like
Well,
that's a nice serving size for our folks this week?
yeah, I think it's good. I think maybe just to touch on, like, I think for me, I understand, and it's helpful to go back to the mission and the goal, of what we're trying to accomplish. Like you said, just come back up to the top, to the rooftop, and take a look at what we're trying to do. And I think secondly is to always know and believe that this is for the purpose of our people, right? And their growth and their ability to then deliver on what the business needs are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the third being, I need to stay grounded so
Mm-hmm.
that I can actually serve them in the best way and not let myself get sucked into, which is what the last piece is probably the most important for me, because that's where I landed at the end. Is just I feel then confused about what do I stand up for now? Because am I being too tough? I don't believe I'm being too tough, but when I see the reaction, it makes me feel like maybe I'm being too tough. So then I'm not being authentic to my mission, and maybe I'm being too tough, and I'm doing the power over. But I think that grounded piece is really important, and being able to just kind of step back and reflect on how it was delivered. And, I am a big believer in that feedback can be challenging sometimes, but done in a right context, in the right way, with the right message and the right language, it can be very powerful. That people can actually hear you when you're talking, and they're actually actively listening and not just listening to be scared and running and going, oh my God, she's a disaster. She's going to kill me if I don't do this right. So I do, and I have experienced that. So I know the difference between those and the effect they can have on people. So I think that as long as I stay within, the respectful, inspiring delivery of feedback, then I should be still very much in alignment. Although again, needing to balance how the people react to that is where I kind of get stuck. And I think
Many leaders.
yeah, and I think as long as I feel true to the way that I did it, and I feel like it's the best way, and it wasn't, disrespectful or tough in the way that I did it, then I need to just stay in my power with that and say that was for their growth, and I need to be able to walk away with my head up and not get too tangled up into the whole emotional piece.
Well, the fact that you're ruminating on all of that on the play is proof and evidence that you surely do care, because you're so available to their reaction that you're immediately calibrating your impact on their reaction, which is why I don't want leaders to get lost in the impact of their people's reaction to what it is that they're delivering. I want us to stay in alignment with the intention. Because when we are sincerely coming to our people to try to help them find their edges, they can also feel that. That sincerity is what lands as authenticity, right? And that intention behind the energy is the most important part, because then even if they misunderstand the way you framed it or presented it to them, you come back to the intention, right? And then you describe it a different way, and they can feel that you are being truthful and honest about having their best interest in mind, even if it's landing in a way that hurts or stings a little bit. I think this is why we're talking about conscious leadership, though, is because you can start off conscious and positively intended and aligned with the goal, and then get into that scenario and be so empathetic that you're like, oh my God, you completely lose the game plan. But as long as you remember to come consciously back to the helm, then that's how you can really start to get back on that solid ground. Because
Mhm.
when we're grounded, that is where we said that we are calm, we're connected, we're clear, right? And also we're back in alignment with our intuition.
Yeah.
And that's the part of us that knows what is true and can then reconnect with what it was that we were actually truthfully trying to convey. I love this topic. I think that this is one
Mhm.
that we could probably go on a little bit of a tangent with even
Yeah.
more. So we'll wait and hear about the feedback from our
Yeah.
people to see if
Love
this
it.
one resonated with everyone. But yeah, I think that's where we want to land the plane today. We're in this year of co-creation, and it is all that feedback we're getting from you. We're not feeling any displeasure about. We are so fired up about the feedback we're getting because it's informing so many amazingly innovative ideas on this mic. I don't think I've done a coach's corner like this ever in 5 years on the LLP. So thank you, Trace, for allowing us to put you on that hot
Mhm.
seat today. You are such a 2.0 leader, leading with authenticity, even in this little role play for our folks. But we want to hear from our folks. We want to hear how this coach's corner landed. Do you want us to get into some hot topic that you're struggling with on the play? Is there something that you would like us to put Tracy on the hot seat with and ask her perhaps? Remember that we are really enjoying hearing from you. You can email me, Susan at elitehighperformance.com, with any type of outside the box ideas you have, as long as it's in and around this hot topic of conscious leadership. We will be excited to explore that on your behalf. For all other inquiries on high performance coaching, leadership coaching, any of our leadership development programs, you can head on over to the website www.elitehighperformance.com. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe on your way out the locker room doors. And please share this episode with a friend who you feel like could benefit from this style of coaching. That's it. That's all for us this week. We'll see you all back in here next week.